All right, did you ever think that you would laugh and maybe cry about the death of a unicorn? Let's talk about the new film now. Hey everyone, it's David Stark from Watcher Pass, and I'm here to talk to you about Death of a Unicorn, which comes to theaters on March 28th, 2025. It is a new indie, kind of like horror-ish dark comedy from A24. It has a great cast and an interesting premise. Is this movie worth your time? Should you go see The Death of a Unicorn? My hot take is I think you should watch later. It is an interesting concept. It has a really kind of like fun cast and plenty of humor at times, but overall, I think this movie kind of like dies slowly due to really poor CG, a slow pace, and just kind of some kind of like hit or miss jokes. And the fact that it's not really scary. I wanted to love this film. I thought I was going to love this film, especially with the cast, especially with kind of the weird subject matter, but I did not enjoy this as much as I expected to. I think you should check out eventually. Just wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. So, all that being said, I'm going to tell you all about the film, a few things I like, a few things I didn't like, and then really quickly go into a recap. So, as you can imagine, there will be spoilers in the recap section. If you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn off when I into the recap. Before that, though, I'll keep it vague. I'll keep it spoiler free. Let you know when I get to those spoilers. So in Death of a Unicorn, you have Elliot played by Paul Rudd and his daughter Ridley played by Jenna Ortega. They are going to this like mountain retreat to meet Elliot's billionaire boss and try to kind of like close a deal. Elliot wants to become like the main representative of this family. But on the way up, something crazy happens that changes the course of the entire weekend and maybe their lives. So, things I liked about this movie. The first, I love the cast. Fantastic cast. Love Paul Rudd, love Jenna Ortega. I thought the real star of this though was Will Poulter. He does such a good job. His character is like really out there, really kind of random, but very, very funny. I really love this cast. I wish I just loved the movie more. The second thing I loved, it's funny. It has some funny moments. It doesn't have a ton. Some of the jokes fell flat, but overall, there are definitely some laugh out loud moments, especially with Will Poulter, especially with some of like the interactions between the family. So you will definitely be laughing during this film. And the last thing I loved, there are some fun movie references. Lots of like Jurassic Park is what I noticed, but I'm sure there are others as well. This film has kind of like a dark comedic style, and some of that shines through in some of the movie references. So, all that being said, things I didn't love as much. The first and kind of most egregious, there's poor CG effects. They looked bad, especially the, unicorn, the main character, the death of the unicorn. It doesn't look good. And it kind of happens early on and it just looks really bad. And then it doesn't get much better throughout. I was a little shocked with the CG moments. I guess it's an indie film. They didn't have the budget, but it did not look very good. Would have been much better on the practical side. I think there were some practical effects in there, but the CG just did not look good at all. The second thing I didn't love as much, it's very slow. It starts off nicely. It starts off kind of like slow buildy, but has a big moment. But then after that, it slows down a lot. I was waiting for it to kind of pick up, and it eventually does, but it takes a long time to get there. This movie is an hour and 15 minutes, and it feels like an hour and 50-minute movie. And the third thing I didn't love as much, like I said, it has funny moments, but some of the jokes just fall flat. Like I think it was supposed to have some bigger comedic moments. I didn't really appreciate them. I thought that there were some funny moments. Like I said, Will Poulter's character is fantastic, but the comedy for me was just kind of hit or miss. And the last thing I didn't love as much, it's just not scary. There are some, scary-ish overtones, but overall, it is not a scary movie, and it tries to get there towards the end. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's not trying to get full-on scary. Maybe it's trying to be a little bit more like thriller, Jurassic Parky, but I think this could have been better if it had a little bit more of a horror vibe, and it kind of has moments there, but it doesn't really ever get all the way. So, all that being said, Death of a Unicorn comes to theaters on March 28th, 2025. I think you should check it out eventually. Wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do see it, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. I'm going to really quickly go into a recap, very quickly go into a recap. So if you don't know what happens in this movie, I would turn it off now because there will be spoilers. So in Death of a Unicorn, you have Elliot and his daughter Ridley. They're traveling to this like billionaire family's mountain retreat. Elliot wants to be the representative of the family. He's a lawyer and he wants to be like the family's like legal representation because something is going on with the patriarch. The patriarch Odell seemed to be sick, and so the family is trying to figure out who is going to help like represent them, make sure that the family business keeps thriving. And Elliot is trying to kind of like work his way in there. Part of that is this weekend where he's going to meet the rest of the family, see how they click, see if his values line up. And it seems to be like a really wonderful start to the weekend. But on the way, Elliot hits a unicorn. And so, they're driving, there's an argument, a unicorn pops out, it looks bad, it's CG. The car hits it, the car spins, very poorly looking because it's CG, and they turn around and they see this like unicorn that's injured. Now, Ridley, wants Elliot to put out his misery. Elliot's like, I don't know if we should do. But while this is happening, Ridley touches the horn because the horn lights up, and Ridley like connects with the unicorn, goes on like a spiritual journey, kind of. Looks like she's gonna kind of like come to a greater purpose. But then all that stops when Elliot starts beating the unicorn with a tire iron because Ridley wanted Elliot to put it out of its misery. So kind of like, ruins the moment, ruins Ridley's spirit quest, and they get blood all over them. Now, eventually, they keep going. They drive to the family estate, and while he's talking to the family, while he's trying to like get a vibe, the car starts making some noises. It's an SUV. It starts like moving and like rocking, and eventually, a unicorn breaks out. Elliot took the unicorn, put it in the back seat or put it in the like back of the SUV and kept driving. Well, that unicorn apparently wasn't dead. It fights and it eventually breaks out, but one of the guards kills it. So the family's like horrified, but then they're like, huh, this is interesting. This is an interesting animal. Maybe they should start studying it. And they find out that the unicorn has healing properties. Specifically, its blood and its horn have healing properties. And we find this out because the blood got on Elliot's eyes and his like nose, and his vision cleared up. His vision, became 20/20, and he got rid of his allergies. The blood also got on Ridley's face, and her acne just kind of like wiped away. So the family's very excited about this, especially because Odell, the patriarch, has cancer. And so they start taking pieces of the unicorn, trying to like, figure out its healing properties. And they synthesize a compound from the unicorn's horn and maybe its blood. And it seems to help Odell. He seems to be getting better. But Ridley is getting nervous because she thinks this is wrong. She thinks that they shouldn't like, use this unicorn. She thinks they shouldn't do research. And she starts to do a little bit of research into like unicorns proper. So while the family is like, taking samples of the unicorn, trying to figure out new remedies, and also selling these magical miracle remedies to, their billionaire friends, Ridley does some research and discovers that unicorns are actually vengeful. She finds some stories of like unicorns being captured and trying to be like exploited, and then other unicorns come and just like destroy everyone, kill them. And so she starts getting very, very nervous. Now, this isn't helped by the fact that they are in like a secluded mountain retreat and they keep hearing sounds and things like that, strange sounds. Well, eventually, the family is going to transfer Unicorn to a facility to do more and more research. But when this happens, the other unicorns attack. The lead scientist is killed, and everyone else is kind of like stranded in the house. The guards are there. They fight off the unicorns, and they kind of like wound one of them and follow the trail of blood. Now, Odell wants to hunt the unicorns. He wants to get the bigger ones with a bigger horn, more resources, things like that. So Odell organizes a hunting party to go take them out. Elliot goes with him, trying to impress him. Ridley doesn't want to, but eventually she comes as well to try to make sure her dad's okay, and I think also like make sure the unicorns are okay. So they're hunting the unicorns, and eventually the big unicorns, the adult unicorns, set a trap. They attack Odell and the hunting party. Elliot helps to protect Ridley, and everyone kind of like retreats, falls back. Some of the guards die, but Elliot, Ridley, and Odell head back to the mansion. Elliot and Ridley are able to get in, but Odell is a little bit behind, and he eventually gets killed by the unicorns. So now everyone else is stuck in the house. Elliot, Ridley, then the mother in the family, Belinda, and the son, Shep. They're all stuck in the house with a couple of the helpers. Now, the unicorns slowly enter, and it's like very Jurassic Park-esque. Like there's some scenes where people are hiding, you kind of hear the unicorns moving around, especially the scene where they're transferring the unicorn. You can see their like silhouettes in the tunnel. It does remind me a lot about Jurassic Park. I thought it was kind of like a clever little throwback. And so when the unicorns enter the house and start to like hunt down the remaining people, it has those aspects as well, like the Velociraptor in the kitchen kind of scene. It feels very much like that. Now, Elliot and Ridley go one way, Belinda and Shep go another way. They get split up, and eventually, Belinda and Shep are attacked, and Belinda is killed. Now, Shep is going to shoot one of the unicorns. Belinda specifically is holding up like a gas canister to blow it up, maybe try to injure this unicorn. But Shep can't do it. He has a bow and arrow. He has a flame wrapped around it. He doesn't do that. He eventually leaves and Belinda just gets killed. Now, instead, Shep uses that bow and arrow to ambush Ridley and uses her to set a trap. Unicorns are apparently tamed by innocent maidens, and Shep wants to use Ridley to do that. Before this, Elliot had gotten hurt defending Ridley, so Elliot is pretty badly injured, and Ridley is trying to escape and is ambushed by Shep. Now, Shep puts Ridley out into the open. The unicorns come, and it looks like they're going to attack her, but when they get close, they just lie down next to her. They kind of like collapse. And so Shep then ties up the unicorns. His plan is to capture them and then use their resources to make more and more medicines, and I guess like sell it, become super super rich. That's Shep's plan. Now, while this is all happening, Elliot finally makes the right choice. He's been capitulating to the family the entire time. But while Shep is like tying up the unicorns, Elliot shows up. He saves Ridley and stabs Shep in the stomach with one of the horns. The baby unicorn, the first unicorn, they eventually cut off the horn. They were trying to, transport that back. Elliot eventually got it, and he stabbed Shep with that horn. Shep, unfortunately, has an arrow because he still has his bow and arrow, and he stabs Elliot in the stomach. So both Elliot and Shep collapse. They start bleeding out, and eventually they both die. Now, Ridley gets up to try to help her dad, and you're like, use the unicorn's healing properties. But all we've been doing is seeing like the unicorns heal. They had vials of unicorn horn, they had unicorn blood. They could have used a ton of things to heal Elliot. Ridley doesn't do any of this. She just tries to like help her dad and then holds him while he dies. Now, her dad eventually dies, and the unicorns get free, and eventually they use their powers to help everyone. The unicorns take Elliot. They put him next to their dead unicorn baby. The first unicorn that was killed was a baby unicorn. These are the two parent unicorns. And then the parent unicorns touch their tips, touch their horns, and magic happens. This power turns around. It like heals the baby unicorn. It heals Elliot, and it also pulls out all the, I guess, darkness. The unicorns had been like, gray color before, and as this power is swirling, it pulls out the gray color. So there's like a gray cloud in this, swirling power, and eventually it kind of blows up, and everyone's fine. The unicorns are now, I guess, pristine white. The baby is fine, and Elliot is alive. So it seems like everything is going to be great, except the cops show up, because one of the helpers, eventually escaped the house while the unicorns were attacking and called the cops. And so now the cops show up, and we see a bunch of dead family members. We see Elliot covered in blood. Not a good look at all. The cops take Elliot and Ridley away. It looks like our heroes might be in for some trouble, but they're pretty happy. They're okay because they're at least alive, and they are closer than ever. And while this is happening, we see the unicorns pursuing the cop cars, and eventually they get closer and closer. Elliot and Ridley buckle up, and the last thing we see is the unicorns kind of like bump the cop car. Seems like they're going to push it over a ledge and I guess free Elliot and Ridley, but in the process, maybe kill an innocent cop. I don't know. We don't know what happens because that's the end of Death of the Unicorn. Like I said, it's okay. I liked aspects of it, but I think you should wait for it to come to streaming or on demand. But if you do check it out, let me know what you think. Let me know what you liked and didn't like. I'd love to hear it. And thanks so much for watching. If you like this review, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me a lot. Make sure all my new content goes straight to you. Thank you. Oh, and there's no stingers, no nothing at the end. Once the credits start rolling, you can head out.